Hello, everyone. Let me begin with a heartfelt thanks to Liz and Jeremy and to the ARC organization for asking me to be part of this celebration. In this day and age, it's sometimes hard to find moments to celebrate, but this is certainly one. And the accomplishments of Miriam and Alicia are certainly accomplishments that we should take a moment and acknowledge and herald as we are doing today. So this is a true honor for me to be part of. And when Liz asked me if I was willing to talk to this and said, you know, what we basically want you to do is talk about what you have found as to the value of mitigation. It was sort of like saying, you know, someone saying, do you have any pictures of your grandkids, right? The problem is that they may not get away for a good half hour afterwards. And so I won't keep you for a half hour, I promise. But I do want to talk about mitigation and what I have found through the years as to why it is so invaluable. For those of you who aren't familiar with my work, most of what my career has been dedicated to is talking to jurors who have sat on capital cases where the state is trying to put someone to death, and talking to jurors who had to make that decision and find out why they voted for life or why they voted for death. And the most fundamental takeaway that I have taken from those interviews, and those of you who have heard me talk in training sessions and all know that this is true, is I almost always at some point in a lecture will find myself at a juncture where I will say, with complete sincerity, if I had to choose between having a great capital defense attorney or a great mitigation specialist, I would take the mitigation specialist every time. I would prefer not to have to make that choice, but it is true. And this is a chance for me to sort of reflect and explain a little bit further why that is true. And really what it comes down to, and again, I know so many of you already know this, but talking to the jurors and hearing about it from their perspective, it just gets driven home time and time again, is that, you know, after they've heard what our clients have done and convicted them of often a rather terrible crime, and then heard from the victims' survivors, you know, jurors are looking at our clients as two-dimensional, right? They really, I remember one juror who said, you know, we just wanted to know, are you really human? And it's the mitigation specialists who find the stories, who find the things in the client's past that allow us to fill in that third dimension and allow us to make the jurors see our clients as people, capable obviously of very bad things, but also capable of love and capable of good things. And I will tell you, no matter how terrible the crime, I remain convinced, and there's a lot of variables that go into this, but I remain convinced that every juror is actually capable of voting for life if we can make them see our clients as not that case number, not that person who performed a terrible act on a particular night, but as someone who has humanity in them. And it is the stories that do it for our jurors. And of course, who is what is mitigation but collecting the stories? There's a lawyer who once said that, very accomplished lawyer who represented a lot of individuals who society would say were despicable. And he was asked how he could do it. And he had the wonderful quote that to defend is not to excuse, to defend is not to judge, to defend is to try to understand. And what mitigation is about is helping us try to understand. And it is a difficult position, in part because a mitigation specialist is really a number of professions rolled in one. They are, if you will, a Renaissance profession who must actually master a number of different skills. On one hand, they have to be a storyteller, right? They have to have a storyteller's eye for plot lines, for new nuances that are going to take us into different chapters as they look into their client's life and know and see how those weave together to tell our client's story for life. My experience is that mitigation specialists have to be part therapists. They have to have patience and an ability to listen, to meet with family members, friends, who it may take a number of times of meeting with them before they will tell the stories that will unlock the case for life, that will save our clients from the death chamber. They must be part scientist in terms of their diligence and their willingness to sit there and do experiment after experiment, which is not going to yield the result until the end. Getting the countless school records, the vaccination records or lack of, finding out about the neighborhood, knocking on that door for the 5th or 6th time, knowing that the person was there the 4 prior times and didn't answer, but they do answer, and all of a sudden you have more information that really proves to be the stepping stone to an important part of our clients' lives. And this one I was having trouble coming up with what profession. I don't know if being a saint is a profession, but it is having a optimism about human nature and a resiliency. An ability to keep going forward even when sometimes what we are finding is so discouraging, about how people treat other people, about how society fails so many of our clients. And yet that optimism that this is going to result in a merciful outcome for our clients. And it's that optimism, by the way, which is why if I'm at a conference and there's mitigation specialists, those are the ones I always want to end up with at the bar, because they're a lot more fun as a general rule. But you know, that's the case-by-case reason why I have such admiration and the recognition of the need of having a mitigation specialist who knows their craft, their profession. But as I was thinking through these remarks, I also realized that mitigation specialists are so important, and the role of mitigation in terms of keeping or trying to bring humanity into the criminal justice system. I have done this for a long time, and one thing that has really struck me is how, and I think this has gotten worse over the past 10 to 20 years, the way the criminal justice system is designed through its rules and through its objectification of our clients is they want to treat them like, you know, a tweet, right? Who is our client? Oh, they're the person who did these particular acts. And here's the sentencing guidelines, right? This is where they ought to be. Here's the law that the legislature passed, and therefore they fit into that box. And what mitigation does is I think it helps us fight. Well, I don't think it, I know that it helps us fight the criminal justice system's urge. And I get why they want to do it. Life is much easier and more efficient if we don't have to look people in the eye and see the humanity in them. But what mitigation does is it makes the criminal justice system step back. And it doesn't allow them simply to be a case number and fit somewhere on a sentencing guideline chart. It says that these are individuals who have had lives, who have stories, some heartbreaking, some uplifting, and we need to see them. And if nothing else, we are talking about being a voice for clients who otherwise would have no voice, whose story would never get told. You are the storytellers for people who need to have their stories told and have to keep the criminal justice system from simply falling into rules and procedures which are designed not to let those stories come out so often. And because when they do come out, it becomes much more complicated. One of my favorite authors, Rebecca West, wrote a number of very powerful essays, and some of them were based on going to the Nuremberg trials after World War II and watching some of the higher up Nazis being tried and the government trying to get death sentences. And she tells the story of a particularly horrible Nazi who had overseen horrible acts. And she was fully prepared to want to exercise revenge on that person. And then she said, you know, the more I watched him, the more I saw who he was, despite what he had done. I couldn't find myself feeling that sense of revenge. As she said in one line that has always stuck with me, it's really hard to put someone to death who you see as a human being, right? And we need to try to bring that humanity into the criminal justice system. I was thinking that in many ways, you know, the way the criminal justice system wants to treat a case is sort of like a black and white photo, right? Here's the snapshot, here's what he did, here's, you know, what happened, let's just move on. And it is the mitigation specialists who bring the color to that photo, who make you do that second look and look into the eyes and expressions of the people in that photo, who realize that they are people. They are a part of our humanity. And we can't let the criminal justice system drive humanity out of our decision making. That is how we end up with, well, not that we already don't have aspects of it, but it is how we end up with a system that treats people not as people, but as simply numbers and objects. And that is a system that is going to result in not just horrible, but evil results. So it is the mitigation specialists with their craft, their art of finding stories and making their clients more than that two-dimensional person on the paper of, you know, what offense did they commit? What is the offense level? And for that, I think that is invaluable in terms of keeping the criminal justice system at least partly accountable and honest. Well, I trust that my admiration for mitigation and those who collect it, and for individuals like Alicia and Miriam who have excelled at it, is by now quite evident. And again, a sincere thank you for allowing me to share those thoughts and be a part of this celebration.